Does Iowa football have a quarterback competition on its hands? The latest with Brendan Sullivan committing, and does Cade McNamara need to watch his back today? Locked on Hawkeyes.
You are Locked on Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked on Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked on Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Some football today as we will talk about the quarterback position. Brendan Sullivan now in tow a week ago. What does that mean for the position? Cade McNamara working his way back from injury. We will get into that. Iowa baseball drops 2 out of 3 at Illinois. Their regular season is finished up in the Big Ten. Still one more series in front of them. That'll be happening here in Des Moines later this week. We'll talk about that. Plus, Scott Dochterman from The Athletic's going to stop by. A lot to get into here with Doc. But we kick things off today with a couple of notes for you. First of all, if you are getting ready to watch Caitlin Clark's regular season debut for the Indiana Fever coming up tomorrow evening on Tuesday night, 6:30 tip-off for that one. I'm going to be in Iowa City, making my way over to the east side of the state and looking forward to getting over to Iowa City, something that is a rarity anymore. Don't get over there nearly as much as I once did. Of course, get over for football games and the like, but an opportunity heading out there with some people, and we're going to be at Coaches. So stop on out if you have an opportunity to stop by, see us, watch the game. Going to have a great time. Going to have some giveaways going on out there. That should be really fun. Always looking forward to game watch opportunity and seeing Caitlin in her regular season debut, and just watching the social media that has been building, what we've seen from Indiana and what the Fever are doing. They've done an absolutely great job with that on top of it. So again, stop on out at Coach's Corner. It is 749 Mormon Trek Boulevard in Iowa City. Going to be there for a game watch. And then right afterwards, we'll do an instant reaction podcast live on the scene from Coaches. So stop on by and say hello. We got some swag that's going to be going on. One of the biggest debuts in, well, certainly women's college basketball, and one of the bigger debuts in a long time. Going to be a lot of excitement for that. Let's talk some football, though. And the question I think that is percolating in a lot of people's minds, and certainly mine at this point in time, after the addition of Brendan Sullivan, what this is going to mean at the quarterback position for Iowa going into August camp. Now, we continue to hear that Cade McNamara is going to be all systems go by June. He'll have full clearance. There were some pictures that were up a week ago. Saw him as they were playing some softball out there and the football team getting together and doing that, having one of those fun team building exercises. But the thing that we saw, 2 different pictures. One, he's got a jumping up in the air and he's got some of that athletic tape over his knee, but no brace. That's pretty good. Doing some kind of athletic endeavor and doing it without a brace on. All right, that's good. And there was another one where he was laying out, diving after a ball. Now, these are still pictures. And when we get to August camp and the pictures come out, we'll overreact as we always do to those pictures and just any little detail that we can get and maybe glean out of those ones. But it was certainly good things to see. The question is, Brendan Sullivan, when he made the decision, so this was Iowa's number 1 target in the portal out of the quarterback position. I don't think there's any doubt about it. When you look at the realistic possibilities of guys that made a whole lot of sense, this was at the top of their wish list. And Tim Lester, I'm going to anticipate, had a lot to do with this. We talked about the background. He recruited him out of high school when Tim Lester was the head coach at Western Michigan. So you first have that connection to it, but you couple it with, this is not Tim Lester's quarterback room. He did not pick any of these guys, and I think he's looking for a guy that can trigger his offense in the way that he can do it. You're looking for a quarterback that can get the ball out quick. You're looking for a quarterback that can be incredibly accurate. And that is one of the biggest strengths that you look at when you're talking about Brendan Sullivan. He's a big guy, 6'3", 225, and we're not talking about some wilting violet down in the corner. This is a big dude. He's got the tats. He is a big man and a good leader. And that's one thing, talking to a Northwestern person that I know really liked his leadership qualities. He was a guy that could rally around. But we also know that this is Cade McNamara's team, right? Cade McNamara is the guy. He came in after he made that commitment 2 Decembers ago, and he knew the job was his, and he took the players out, went out to that California trip last spring. I mean, there was a lot going on there, and you could tell he's a leader. He is a guy that is definitely one of those people that those leadership qualities we hear are incredibly high. However, you're looking for the best player. You're looking for the guy at this point that can do the most. And Iowa really owes nothing to Cade McNamara. I mean, outside of the payments that they have to pay him, obviously with the Swarm Collective, this is not a guy that's won big games for them. This is not a guy that has gone out there and won a Big Ten title, anything like that. He did it at Michigan, but he didn't do it for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And if he's not ready to go, having that insurance policy obviously is huge, but I do wonder what this competition is going to look like. So coming up tomorrow, if you're not going to make your way to Coach's Corner, you can also hang out in Des Moines, and they're going to be having the Polk County Eye Club. We talked a little bit with Addison last week about that and that event. And with it, we'll hear from Kirk Ferentz. I want to hear what Kirk has to say. Now, you have to read between the lines. He's not going to outright say, yeah, Cade McNamara is our starter. I don't believe you're going to hear that. But when it came to Sullivan, were they selling him on the fact that McNamara's coming off injury, that his last 2 seasons were ended because of injury? That we're talking about a quarterback that I don't want to say is playing on borrowed time. I think that's maybe a hill too far, but this is a guy that has an injury history, a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy over the last 2 seasons, and he's coming off an ACL tear. Now, an ACL tear is not what it once was. It's not a death knell. You can come back, and we've seen guys come back and play at an incredibly high level right away, but there is still at least some kind of limitations. You know, there was that tweet that came out in the open practice at the end of spring practice, and you saw him kind of limping around out there. He was going through his zone read look and looked very gimpy when he was doing that. Talking to some people, though, in practices, that has not always been the case. He's not completely back, but he is getting there. And what you saw in that one little piece of footage that we got, that was a lot to make some people concerned. He's going to be okay. Does Sullivan have the opportunity, though, to win this job? Jaden Harrell is not going to beat out Jay Higgins for the starting middle linebacker job this year. Yes, everybody's spot is up for grabs, right? Every coach says it. It doesn't matter what level you're talking about, but we know. Yes, Jay Higgins is going to be in the middle of that defense. That's going to happen. There is no way that he's going to be unseated short of an injury. He's healthy. He's going to be out there. And there are other positions that are exact same thing that you talk about. Quarterback, though, we'll see. One to definitely keep an eye on, and looking forward to seeing and hearing what we hear from Kirk Ferentz here in the next couple of days as they are out and about and the iClub circuit. And we'll get some nuggets, and of course, we will pass them along to you. We continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes. Time to talk to the doc, Scott Dochterman, longtime on the Iowa Hawkeye beat. We'll break things down with Scott Dochterman, talk about his thoughts on Brendan Sullivan coming in. We got some football talking. What exactly happens in the transfer portal? He had a great piece, him and many of his colleagues over at The Athletic, talking exactly about that, and maybe some things you don't exactly know about how the sausage is made inside the transfer portal. We'll hear from Doc as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. As a small business owner, finding those positive people that are the right people for the job that you have, it's incredibly difficult. What I love about LinkedIn is they do a great job of helping you find those people in a whole deep cast of people that are going to be coming and applying for your job. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses, you have so much going on. You might not have the time or the resources to make that right hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for their hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Scott Dochterman writes for The Athletic along with his colleagues Mandel, Navarro, Feldman, Ubben, a couple of others wrote it's a phenomenal read. It's a long read, but if you're interested on the whole NIL, when it comes to football, how the college football transfer portal works, coaches, players, and agents went on the record anonymously, granted, but boy, oh boy, some great insight. Doc, Trent, and Ken, I couldn't put the piece down when I started to read it. It's such a fascinating look into how it all happens, right? How the contact begins and where it goes and the steps that are followed, even to the extent that some coaches are actually going up to players on the field at the end of games and saying, I really shouldn't be saying this, but if you're not happy, and I mean, Doc, it's crazy, but I guess we shouldn't be surprised.
No, you can't be surprised with anything that happens with now free agency in college football. It's everything is out there in the open, and there's really no enforcement. So it's like the Audubon, just everybody going whatever speed they want. And it was a fascinating look. We, all of us kind of chipped in and talked to different people at, whether it's players, coaches, assistants, agents, heads of the collectives themselves, and each of us talked to several. And yeah, you really learned a lot because it's different for everybody, and every school is different. And I would say that the rules are, if they're not, broken, they're completely bent and twisted into a pretzel. So it's really fascinating.
So many different angles to that story. The conversations that are happening with assistant coaches on the field after a game, walking off. No, it's not just shaking hands. There's a little bit more there. I mean, the sinister nature that it is, it's not a surprise yet. When you see it in writing, it kind of is a surprise. What were some of the things that kind of took you back? And man, this goes even deeper than even maybe you could have imagined.
Oh, yeah. I would say, as you said, the interactions on the field are probably the ones that surprise you the most, because that's probably, let alone tampering, if there's something that's just unethical, it's, the way those games turn out. And I wonder as much if that's a lower level, opponent versus a higher level opponent. And you see somebody that maybe plays for an FCS team or a G5 team, and you see him stand out, and you're like, yeah, you know what, if you're interested, but I think, what stands out a lot of it is just how to get around officially tampering, but letting people know you're interested. And I think, whether it's, liking their stuff on social media and seeing if they like you back and follow you back and that sort of thing. It's kind of like middle school dating.
It really is.
But, just anything to get an edge, anything to know, because that's the way it works. And one player could determine the outcome of a game and could determine the outcome of a season.
One of the bad words, one of the the words you can't say or couldn't say, agents, when it comes to college sports. Doc, A, they're everywhere, and B, what a great gig to get, right? I guess, I mean, there's no requirements. There's nothing you have to pass to become an agent. NFL, that's not the case. NFL's capped at 3% of contracts. These guys are making big money off some of these players. I didn't realize how much money they're making off players when it comes to the percentage of whatever they get from their, the school that they decide to go to.
Right. And that's something that I think everybody would like to be regulated a little more. Certainly the coaches all have agents and they deal with them. And a lot of them that were dealing with the NFL, whether they're players or former coaches there, they understand the role that they play. And the problem is, it's not so much the reputable agents. They understand how to make things work. It's the ones that are the hangers on and, the uncle, or whatever that, shops guys around and then gets 30% or whatever. That's what needs to get weeded out of here. And it's always been that element, the bag man, where the rogue AAU coach or 7-on-7 coach or the uncle gets involved and starts moving players around and getting their cut of it. that's what they want to get rid of. And I think, that's probably where it's headed once this NIL system kind of comes under campus and when the House and Carter cases are settled. But it's still a rampant part of this job.
Haven't had an opportunity to talk to you as you were off last week on vacation. Brendan Sullivan commits to the Hawkeyes, giving them a much needed another arm in the quarterback room. Your thoughts on Sullivan as a prospect, and is this going to be a real competition come August?
I think it was the best quarterback out there that could work for Iowa, considering he has started games in the Big Ten. He has competed against Iowa. He's won games in the Big Ten, and he's pretty accurate. And I think that's something that when you look at this, who Iowa was able to get, I think that was about as good as it gets. And one of the things that really fascinated me about RPO, when you're dealing with RPOs and zone read to some extent is, how accurate are you, especially between the hash marks. And in the middle of the field, he was 43 of 50 last year. I mean, with 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 400 yards. And those are really good numbers. That's something that not only Iowa can work with, Iowa could win with. And now when you talk about the competition, the way I would label it, and we'll find out a little bit more when we get a chance to talk to Kirk Ferentz next, probably tomorrow night. But that is that with the Cade McNamara still is the starter, and I would expect him to be the starter in June. But when you get into August, I think that it should be an open competition. And if Brendan Sullivan is the best player for that job, they owe, other than NIL, they owe Cade nothing. I mean, Cade was there and he was hurt. This is his last year, but as far as the equity goes of being a starting quarterback, there's really not much of a resume at Iowa. So I think if Brendan Sullivan is the best player, I imagine he'll play.
Doc, now we turn our attention to the rest of the roster, and there's one position group, a glaring need, right? It's seemingly wide receiver. What will they do anything there? Are they kicking the tires? What have you heard? Because it seems like they've looked after the quarterback. They've checked the backup box. At least that's what got them under. But now they have to, I think, focus on wide receiver. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, and I think they're looking, and it's right now kind of, I don't know if they're looking at the discount racks or how they're trying to approach this, because but Iowa doesn't have a great reputation there either, and so they've got to figure out how to get a body there to compete. And, and you just, all you have to do is look at the last number of years of attrition. The 2018 through 22 classes, they had 10 scholarship receivers, 9 of which have left with eligibility. 1 plays baseball, 8 transferred. So you've got, those are bad numbers. So yeah, they're going to be looking after, several players. I know they have, and that'll continue. And, maybe they'll get lucky where somebody in, a group of 5 decent receiver will just, they won't have to offer a scholarship or just through the collective and get them on campus and compete right away, a Charlie Jones type situation. And of course, Charlie had a red shirt back in the old days. And, maybe this one would be one where they can get in and compete right away. And that's probably the best case scenario. And I would expect them to, recruit and possibly sign a defensive tackle as well.
Is there any path at all? I know we're about a month away from all the freshmen arriving, and there were not very many early enrollees this season. With all the returning starters coming back, a lot of guys at depth pieces there, is there a path for a true freshman to see much playing time? Any guy that you have circled?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I do. I think the linebackers have a chance to be on special teams right away. Yep. Maybe all 3 of them, if not certainly 2 of them. This is the best linebacking group I've ever seen at Iowa coming in, and I wouldn't be shocked if 2 of them end up on the depth chart this year. Cam Buffington, Derek Weiskopf, and Preston Reeves, all 3 are dynamite. I mean, if they weren't from small town Eastern Iowas, they would be 4-star plus. And I know Weiskopf was, but they would be guys that every school would come after. And they did. They tried to come after them. So I expect them to play right away. And you can't shut the door on a wide receiver, Reese Vanderzee or KJ Parker, and Brevin Dahl. I mean, he's been amazing in track since he's been healthy, and I think he's got a chance. but you know, as you get closer to the line of scrimmage, it's really hard, and it's hard to predict the secondary because they've got a lot of young guys there and in the depth chart. And can a Jalen Watson or Rashad Godfrey come in and compete? Yeah, I mean, Phil Parker's shown an ability to want to play those young guys, but you know, when you have John Nestor and Cohen Entringer, Deshaun Lee, TJ Hall, Zach Lutmer, all seemingly taking steps forward, it might be difficult to crack into that, but it wouldn't surprise me if a DB also sees time on special teams.
Doc, last thing for me, Trent and I we brought this up last week that we would love to be able to watch the networks draft the games that they're going to show and why they want this game over another one. We saw NBC came out with their primetime game on the same night as Cyhawk. We thought maybe there was a chance it would be parked there. That's now Colorado, Nebraska in primetime on NBC. When do you think we'll know some of these kickoff times? And wouldn't you like to watch that or be a part of it just to see some of the backroom deals that are cut as far as, you know, who gets who and in what time slot?
Yeah, I would. I've had conversations with some of the people involved before, and it is fascinating because, you know, I mean, Fox is the number one rights holder, and it gets the majority of number one picks per week. But then there are weeks they give it up, and a lot of times that's because they also have rights with the Big 12 or with Major League Baseball during the World Series. So then they do a little bit of trading there. And I think the fascinating one for me is the CBS NBC component. NBC got the number 2, it looks like, for that second week, and which is why they took Colorado and Nebraska. And Fox is going to come out with its first couple weeks today, I think.
Wow.
And then there'll be, so I would imagine the Cyhawk will be earmarked for CBS the midday. That seems to be about right. When CBS comes out with it. So yeah, I would love to sit in on that and hear everything and report it. I've tried, they know, but I'll still continue to try.
That'd be fun. Doc, what have you got coming up this week at the Athletic?
Yeah, tonight I look forward to talking to the Cyclone Brass and Cedar Rapids. So I will have a story on that. And then tomorrow, I believe it is Kirk Ferentz is going to be in Des Moines for an iClub, so I'll be there. And then later on, early next week, I know me and my colleague Jesse Temple, we're working on a Chicago Confidential recruiting in the Chicagoland. So we'll have, I think we're talking to 8 different coaches throughout there about recruiting in the major hub of the Midwest. So yeah, got some fun stuff coming up.
Awesome. Doc, thank you. Have a great week. We'll talk to you a week from today. Thank you, Scott Dochterman. Appreciate it as always.
All right. Have a good one.
Yep,
guys.
you do the same. Scott Dochterman from The Athletic.
Great stuff as always out of Doc. Appreciate his time as we talk some Hawkeyes with one of the main guys on the Iowa beat. We continue and wrap things up. We got some news and notes. Iowa baseball gets ready for their final series, of the regular season. We'll talk about that happening here in Des Moines, plus a note on Cade Martin of the WNBA. That's all as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, futures, and a whole lot more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Love the sound of that one. Once again, FanDuel.com/lockedon for you to make that happen. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Your team every day. We got you covered each and every day with the Hawkeyes. Again, coming up tomorrow evening, Tuesday night, I will be in Iowa City at Coaches. Looking forward to that. Watching Caitlin Clark in her debut in the WNBA. Cade Martin has made the team with the defending champion Las Vegas Aces. What an incredible story. First, we go back to draft night and just hearing her name called. We know about the difficult nature, just 144 spots in the WNBA, 12 teams, small rosters, just 12 players on a roster. And for Cade Martin to make that just an incredible story. She wants to get into coaching whenever her career comes to a close, but keep it going, Cade. What a great story that is, and looking forward to seeing her on a very good team. Of course, looking forward to that Caitlin Clark game. Stop on out, say hello. We got some great swag prizes and some other things going on with my friends from Circa. Should be a good time. 6:30 tip-off for that one tomorrow night. If you're looking for Iowa baseball beforehand tomorrow, well, that is not going to be happening, as the baseball game scheduled against UIC for tomorrow has been canceled. No game for the Hawkeyes on Tuesday. Instead, the final 3 games of the regular season will be Florida International in the state of Iowa. That will be played at Principal Park, though. The Iowa Cubs Stadium is where that one will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday for those 3 games. Brody Brecht will be out there. Haven't got official word of when he's going to start. I do know a lot of people have been asking that question. I want to get an opportunity to see Brody Brecht throw one final time. More great news for Iowa baseball with the win against Illinois. They have now locked in their spot in the Big Ten tournament. Disappointing losing 2 out of 3, obviously, to the Illini. Chance to move up the rung, if you will, in terms of the Big Ten ladder. But Iowa currently sits in 6th place. That means Maryland, Ohio State, Michigan State, all behind the Hawkeyes in the standings. Even if they would win their final 3 games of the regular season, sweep any 3 of those teams with the sweep, would not be able to pass Iowa. So Iowa is in. They can move up a little bit more. They're still just a half game back from Michigan, Indiana, and Purdue. So potential of moving up a little bit in the Big Ten tournament. We know it's going to take another Big Ten tournament championship in order for it to happen. It's going to be difficult. Need Brody to go out and do his thing as he has for the last month plus. The rest of the rotation has not been great. We've seen some ugly starts out of Marcus Morgan, out of Obermueller. The bullpen has improved, still not an elite level. They're banged up offensively. It is a tall task, but at minimum, they are in. And they get ready for this one. Again, thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. A big thank you to everybody out there for checking in. Hope to see you in Iowa City tomorrow at Coaches on Mormon Trek. Looking forward to that. Stop on by, watch the game, and we got some prizes. We got some other stuff going on. A lot of good things happening out there. Got some swag. Maybe I'll even buy you a drink. How about that? Stop on by, say hello to us out at Coaches tomorrow evening. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Sounds like we have some more basketball news potentially on the horizon. Peyton Samford, very close as he continues to move up many of the mock draft boards. Potential that his days are coming to a close. Iowa also had a visitor on campus for men's basketball. We'll keep an eye on that one, and we got you covered tomorrow. And then a live Locked On podcast from Coaches coming your way right after the Caitlin Clark game and the Indiana Fever. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Hawks.